This is the structure we showed a few days ago, and this is basically the structure of star formation within 6 coils in the middle and 12 coils outside. And I would like to also cover the spiritual aspect of this, because we're not just looking at the physicality of where we as humans are headed. The reason we are looking for lift or the lift to go above to space is actually connected to our soul essence, because we need to, as consciousness beings, we are bound to the limitations of this reality. And if we can lift our boundaries and go above these limitations, and we feel total freedom within our own consciousness to explore, we will achieve what we want, which is the true freedom of our consciousness. And the physical structure that you see is just a physicality part of it. So make sure to connect the dots, connect the physicality to your emotional and spiritual level to cover everything, because everything is interconnected in a very, very deep level, as all of us around the world are connected at a very, very deep level in our hearts. And we are here to remember our connection to our own essence, to the essence of our Creator, and our relationship with the essence of the whole creations, and see the universality of the connections that we have with all beings. All beings, and it could be even in different galaxies, planets, and so forth, and even the animal kingdom, and so we have to learn to respect all life and honor all life, and go into a different direction where peace can exist and thrive by our choosing. We have a choice to make, and if you're hearing this, we are on our way, because collectively at one point in time we decided that this is a direction that we would like to move. As everything evolves in the universe, the consciousness evolves, and this is a time for change for good. Having said that, the structure that you see, let me annotate here. So this was the star formation that we initially talked about, and I'm marking them. So we got 3 reactor cores in a triangle, and the middle top. We have to slightly bring this up a bit to this level, and so we have to place it up. And the key component of this structure is the hydrogen ionization process that we will describe that in a couple of weeks ago. Basically, we got 6 reactors here, and we got 12 reactors here. When you look at it from the bird's eye view, you can see that each 3 reactor here itself will create another star formation here. And then you get another 3. And the structure keeps going on. So there is an infinite, basically, level of infinite star formations within the formation itself. In sacred geometry and everything, the number 12 is very significant. And the reason there are 12 cores is because everything as above, so below. So everything is connected in all dimensions. So we are replicating what is happening through the existence of creation of universe. There are 2 maggrav coils here, which we'll more go into details of why they are there. And the reason that we brought the maggrav coils in your power units and the health units and the car units was the introduction, a partial introduction of understanding of the whole structure. So everything requires time to bring in, and we brought step by step to this position where we can understand the totality of the structure. As everything has a core, a hydrogen atom is the core of basically our sun. In our sun, we have hydrogen bonding together to create helium and create a large amount of energy. And the ignition process for this unit is the hydrogen atom, which has to be, through a process, be placed within these cores.
Can I
and
add
also,
something, Ali?
please do so. Please do so.
When Ali speaks about the hydrogen, we're talking about the Gans state of hydrogen, not the atomic or molecular hydrogen.
Correct.
So what it means is, as you have quoted as part of the blueprint to be released by the Innovation Center, the last layer of all the coils you do coating has to be CH or H bond. And when you have a CH3, which you have seen the pinkish, reddish, what you call Gans, which you produced in the past, when you create a right field motion, this hydrogen is not an atomic hydrogen, is a Gans state of hydrogen, which sitting on the outer boundary in the rotation of the fields, as you've seen with the cores, will move into the center. So it's not the atomic hydrogen, we don't ionize the hydrogen, but we actually use the energy of the Gans of hydrogen, which takes place due to its mass in the center and becomes part of the center structure. What is important to realize is that, as I explained in one of the teachings in the past couple of days, is when you nano coat and then you coat with different materials, layer by layer, you have to understand how you create a gradient and the availability of each material at the point of need. At this moment, because of the level of understanding, we are using coils and cores, and the coils which are rounded like coils. In the next step, when we go further in understanding, you will find that there are no physical cores and coils. It will be established in a totally different way. But this is at least an interim level to go there till we see the other effects. In a very simple system, if you look at this structure, you have a hydrogen Gans within a hydrogen Gans within a hydrogen Gans. What does this mean? If I can share your screen, I just add to the knowledge step by step as the heads of different sections start teaching you. In this process, where you look, in fact, here I'm going to use can you take your colors off or leave your colors?
Yeah, sure. I'll clear them up all, and you can go ahead.
Okay. So what we're going to see is this. Let me move my bar out of the way. What we're going to see is this. You create in the center of this, each individually, atomic, even here in a line, here in a line, here in a line, an atomic plasma Gans, which is a singular Gans of the plasma, which is actually just a neutron itself. Neutron will take its in place, or what you call the proton behavior, but in fact, because it brings the electron, it becomes a neutron behavior. So what you're going to have is center of plasmas. That these, in fact, will do at any time, allows you to create the 3 layers needed for to give tangibility and physicality to your system at its boundary. Go back to the understanding of the skin of the man. So when Ali speaks about hydrogen, we speak about the plasma of a proton and electron, which is part of it, and they, because of the way you Gans coated your coils, have come to this. Understand something very simple how it works. You have the copper, yeah. Then you have nano-coated the copper by caustic, which is here on this level. If I can get my colors right. You have nano-coated on this level here. Then what you have done, you coated them with different materials like copper oxide. And then you coated them with something else, or if you can use the white, if you can see the white here, with CO2, and then you coated them with, which is this color of more or less CH3. When you turn this into the direction of the coils, you'll see what happens. This is the, I try to do it here. If I can, I go on the blue. You have created a ring of the copper, which is this one. Then what you had, you added now the nano coating to it, which is this one. Now you added, let's say, your copper oxide, which is this one. These are all in the gas state. Then you added your CO2, and then you added your CH3. So if you look, this is your copper here. Your copper now, this is what I told you even in the tapes we speak about, yeah? For the first time, man has been taught how to control the plasma. If you look, you have the same structure outside. You have the nano coating. This is a tube, huh? Don't make a mistake. You still have your green here, and you still have your red. So when you look at any of these structures like here, this is what you have. When you create a current flow within the structure of the copper, and if you can handle it the right way, clockwise or anti-clockwise, because these are Gans state, they start rotating. And if you remember what we saw with the coils, when we put the Gans in the cores, you saw the nano material, the Gans in the boundary, you saw the water, and we saw empty space. So now the empty space here in the center becomes the atomic plasma of proton or neutron, whatever you want to call it. Ali calls it the hydrogen. We don't ionize. This is how this orange, which is a CH3, the orange will release his hydrogen plasmas and they become the center because it's the lightest. Because now your nano-coated material, the copper, behaves as a centrifuge vacuum. And then this is the process which is said. That's why I walked you into this, that you slowly understand. If you look at these, they are not tightly packed, these are open. So for the first time you create a plasma which is open with this environment and inside packed. With the cores, you didn't have this. With the cores it was a sealed container. Now the sealing is created by number of coils which are nano-coated, which allows the interaction with the atmosphere, with the environment and itself. So in a space, a system like this will allow you to receive and give and stay in balance, but be dominated by layer of the center of Paris. You got to realize every single one of these is connected. And they share the energy to the center. we have made a structure of universal system. If you look at it, if you understand it, it's very simple. This is and becomes the principle. In these layers is all transition till you decide the physicality of the matter, which is the spaceship boundary. You have 3 layers, 1, 2, and 3, to give it the physicality like the skin of the man. So you see, all the teachings from the beginning are coming together. All the teachings now make sense. Now you understand how you continuously, this is how the origin of the creation of plasma, even in the solar system, is controlled. Because all these, due to the hydrogen in between them, as what we call a plasma, continuously feed to the strongest what is needed. And if you remember, in the teaching of on Tuesday, we said this, which is the inner ring, has to be set slightly lower. So in fact, because these 3, 1, 2, and 3 sit on the same line, they give you the physicality. The core number 4, which is this one, sits on the top, but it receives his field like this inwards. The setup now, after Ali explains, will move into Philippine Innovation Center. And they have made you the set system to see, and we heard just before we start, they can see the fields building up. But you have to realize that in all these innovations, they are using totally a plasma
indication.
Let me explain to you, the pictures there which we've seen, it still comes from Nigeria through another part of the Alex, which they all teach, which is from Jamera Samuel Nash. This is how they're teaching in what do you call it, in Africa. And this is how we should teach. Mass teaching is going in different directions in Africa. And we support you. And we thank you for sending all these pictures and letting us all share. Carry on, please.
Yes, so...
you see, there is something before you go, I've got to tell you. I saw this picture a few days ago, after we taught. These connections here, I'm going to come off here. These connections here has to be redone. These connections are important to be redone. You don't need to connect these in this way, because you can connect your gravitational on its own and magnetic on its own to its power supply. And when you need, you can connect the gravitation to gravitation and magnetic to magnetic. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Sorry about that, carry on.
That's okay. So this is a view from the top. As we said a few days ago, within these coils, there's another core, and let me show that for a second.
I cannot go.
So just clear that. Okay, so basically you have one inner core like this, and you place it in one outer core. This was the pictures that Vernie sent us today. And so once you put these together, you'll have this shape, and that's basically the structure of each cores. And one is gravitational and one is magnetic. You can, what I did also on my own experience, I wanted to connect the emotion, so like a 3 stackers that we are having. I did put another one here that looks like this, so you can have 3 of them. And what it does, it connects your emotional part to these coils, and as we understand it more, we can understand how to control the systems and so forth better. Let's go back to this design. Let's go to annotate here. So one of the important thing is actually what you were saying was the Gans of hydrogen, and there are different ways of creating the Gans of hydrogen. If you mix aluminum with caustic, the reaction that you're getting is basically it will create the hydrogen Gans. And there's another way to do it is through the coating of these coils. For example, if you coat them, as Mr. Kish was saying, with at the last layer, the CH3, the CH3 will position itself in the middle of these coils, and it becomes the ignition process. In the beginning, we discussed that it's better not to actually connect these coils because they're going to rotate. So the coils, once they're loaded, you'll see that they'll rotate. Later it was said that if you connect them together, it would be because we need to control or contain the fields, it's better to connect them. So Mr. Kish, we go with the connection first, is that right? Mr. Kish, are you there?
I have to find the mute button, that's the problem.
Okay.
Okay, yes, carry on. Yes, you have to, what we done here, we use nano-coated plastics, as you see on the boundary outside, for the connection. The suggestion was to use springs as connection, that you can put them in the springs. But the field strength, then the creator will position these reactors individually. So unless you get everything 100% correct, you'll find out they'll be jagged. They will be going like this, for example. One of them will position itself here, and one position itself here, and one will be here, and the other one will be here. Till we bring a, what I call a full operational system that we can control the production to absolute correctness. You better to keep the connection between these, that at least they keep within a boundary. Because once you create a condition, they will move to find their positions. And if you suddenly lose one shooting off, you don't want that. So we decided to keep them connected, that they stay in touch, but everything is nano-coated. Make sure there are no matter states in contact. And then through these you can control. You see there is something here which you have to see. If you look at the inner core, the gravitational core of this set, the gravitational core itself has two coils inside each other. If I can make one blue and one red. So, okay, this is the other one. If you have this, we go pen, and then we go pen. Okay, we have this. So this is your other coil. This is all solid state. What you have connected this as a magnetical, and you have connected this as gravitational. I deliberately do the wrong colors that you can see the separation. You have to keep these separate, because you can connect, if we call this set 1 and set 2, you have to connect the gravitational of this in 1 to the gravitation of the 2. But you don't need to connect the magnetical of the 1 to the gravitation of the 2. So you keep connection of your magneticals to each other, and you keep the gravitational set of each coil to gravitational. You don't connect the magnetical to gravitational on these two rings. It cannot be done, because this you set a minimum maximum gravitational field. This you say you set the minimum maximum of the magnetical field. So that's why I said to you just now, do not do such a connection. Your gravitational of the center has to be connected to the gravitational other, the other one, but you don't connect them back. You connect them to a panel that you decide which one you want to feed to the magnetical, which one you want to feed to gravitational. This is a control system. Now we start controlling. This was done that everything goes out. This was for the energy unit. You can't repeat the same thing in the space unit. So when you make your coils, make sure your gravitational, each one has its own. You have a gravitational of the center, you have the gravitational of the outer, you have the magnetical of the center, you have magnetical of the outer. Which one do you want to increase? Which one you want to reduce? You want to increase the gravitation to sink down, you connect one and two gravitational together, you reduce your magnetical to the boundary only. But you want to increase the load on the boundary, that you can do it. So start before you go too far with everything, that you have to start separating your magnetical and gravitational of each line. They don't connect. If you want to create a suddenly rapid, huge fence, you connect all the magnetical of the outside together. If you want to produce a sudden rapid increase in gravitational, you connect all the gravitational of the center, you keep your magnetical still strong. You want a heavy shield, but you want to sink into the liquids. You want to descend suddenly. You want a second process that gives you 2 layers. What you can do, you can still keep this, but increase the gravitational or magnetical of this to create the second layers. You can increase the field here. So now what we call system control comes into operation. When you make these boundary coils, you have to make it that's okay. This is gravitational, and this is magnetical. Magnetical has to have its own connection. Gravitational has to have its own connection on either end. You just pipe one line to it. You don't need to connect it. You just pipe a line to it. Then you decide, okay, now I want to increase this, or I want to go to the next one. You have to create a lot of freedom, because now we are really dealing with the real space, and any mistakes can be fatal if you are a passenger.
Is there no middle wire like in the MagRef power unit?
Pardon?
In the middle, is there a wire?
No.
Ah,
You
okay.
don't need it. You don't need it. In the power units, it's different. Understand, you now start splitting the technology to different application. When you build up these structures, you can compartmentalize it. So in this section, I want to have a peaceful place. If anybody has a psychological problem, I want him to go there. You can set your reactors that way. In this compartment is the dining room. Anybody goes there can take any other energy he needs, because you can set things up now. As I said in the teaching yesterday, if you look at this core 1 and then core 2, you can make a number of core 1s by dimension, that now you create floors in your spaceship. Because still each one will do, because the gravitational which brings it together gives us solidity. You can dictate your magnetical at each layer to be in line with the bottom, that it grows and expands and reduces at the same time. If you suddenly expand your boundary on this level to 100 meter, then you don't get the top falling down or having nowhere to go to. So they correspondingly increase or reduce. Something which is very important in a space, you will understand, for transportation. Can I share a screen, please? Can I take over for a while?
Yes. Stop share.
Now that we're going into the direct application of the transportation and the use of the technology, you got to realize, very interesting point. If this is your spaceship, and this is, we are looking from the top on the floor you've created, somewhere down here is your gravitational core, somewhere down here is your 3 base cores in the bottom, and somewhere here you have a plasma situation free, which is your center of the energy. You plate yourself up. Then if you look at it, change the scenery from what we are used to. It'll be one of the biggest shock to a lot of you when you enter these structures. If you use these systems for mass transportation, there is no front and there is no back. You lay the seating like this, centralized. So in a small environment, you can carry tens of thousands of people if you want to do mass transportation. Don't forget, you don't need to develop a 737 and 747 and what do you call it, Airbus 380 and the rest to increase the size. All you need to do is change the strength in the cores and the floor expands. You can use the same structure if you understood how to do it for 3 or 4 passengers. You can expand by changing the strength to carrying thousands. You can carry 100 kilo or 100 megaton, because now the system on its own is one planet. It can do whatever it likes. Now you have the control. The direction is decided. We can't have windows. Having windows is one of the nicest thing to have, but it's still possible you don't see much, because the shielding blocks the view. So you decide how many people you want to have on each floor, and you just want to feed the people on the ground floor. They're vegetarians, and the one on the top are meat eaters. You just supply the right energy through your boundary of your 12 or 6 reactors to get the taste, the feel of what they need. They never be hungry to eat. You don't need to go and serve food. This is done already in the space. You got to have, as I said to you this morning, and I said from Thursday, we go from now on. Whatever we taught up to now was to bring you to the scratch to understand. From now on, we go into a real through space motion, understanding, and all the criterion for it. Past 2 years I used to bring you from what you knew and see something new. What you knew was the old style of bits of information gathered, what we built on it, that you can see connection. From now on, we go into the true space. You've seen how I start teaching the medical application through the emotional part of the brain, nothing to do with the physicality. From now on, we go step by step in understanding what are the new opportunities. A lot of you get confused. He taught us this, he went there. Now you see whatever I thought you was to gather enough information for different groups, that when we bring the groups together, they can bring the totality. You don't expect to go from, let's say, Tehran to New York in 10 hours, 12 hours. In the next few months, transportation time between Tehran and New York should be less than 10 minutes. Iranian scientists are doing it less than 40 minutes at the moment. Iranian spaceship program scientists are extremely advanced. but still they work in the plasma, in the fresh reactor core, not much on the nanotechnology side which we developed. This is what I explained to you. When we go to China, I'll give it as a gift to the Chinese community, Chinese government, a system which can clean up most of the mess over the cities of Shanghai and Beijing. We'll teach them to do it themselves. If you understood this, must be very easy. You make systems which only absorb certain materials. So you have tanked all the gold which is in the air and all the CO2 which is in there and all the other things which is a component which creates this huge mess over the big cities. It's not something wrong, it's not something that just appeared. It's what we have burnt or produced as element which is fed into the space above the cities, that now we have a technology to create gravitational magnetic field and the tankers of without size and dimension that it can clean up there. In a very short time, part of the VC, hopefully we go to Japan today. We hopefully have within the next hour or so our Chinese colleagues, Japanese colleagues in Tokyo and south of Japan, which will show you the new measurement tools we are looking at. Then, as a thank to Mr. Khan, who's put all his life literally destroyed by the TEPCO deliberately as the head of the Keshe Foundation to clean up all the mess in the Japanese and at what they call it Pacific Ocean. Because you can create the right strength fields that absorbs most of the radiation which is connected to Fukushima. Cleanup of systems with this technology is absolutely nothing. It's so simple. We open the 2 doors into the space and we let you taste it. I take it as a gift to the Chinese government. A full technology for literally clean up everything which is in the China Sea or over the space of China. And then we show them the military defense technology, which is for a space to opening tunnels for line of communication and a space travel. Chinese nation is to me the same as Iran and the same as where we are in Emirates or the Americans. Now we work as together. We see the beauty, why do we waste money on things which is not needed. So when you set these reactors, start looking in a different angle. I didn't take you in the different directions. I just taught you as much as possible to have a broad spectrum of a knowledge that those of you who can connect with different parts can bring it in. Now we're in that position. You do not need to go hungry, whatever. You create the fields that people can just walk through, they receive all the energy. We've seen this in the teachings coming up. People start testing how they can get energy, they don't need to eat and the rest of it. Okay, Alijan, carry on.
Okay, so I'll be sharing the this is the blueprint that we are working on. It's not a final version, and the innovation team has been drawing this, so you have to look at the connections and everything, but this is basically kind of give you an idea of what the final version will be looking like.
Can we go to the Innovation Center and let them enlighten us more in depth?
Yes, Ren
have
and
they got their camera on? Have they got their thing sorted out yet, Rick? Hello? What's this picture? We see something.
most important thing in the coating of these system is that you must use a fire coating in all your coils and everything. Don't use the caustic because we're looking at to create a monoatomic condition in a pure state, and make sure that you coat all the coils with fire. And if I use this annotate thing here, hold on. These 2 coils should have, in order for a passenger to be able to be allowed in the system be covered with the CO2 that at the top when you create a CO2 gas. There's an amino acid that forms on the top. So if you coat these two with amino acid, that would allow a human passenger to be allowed inside the system. Is that correct, Mr. Kish?
Yes, sorry, I have to keep on looking for the
Mute button.
mute button because I'm doing too many things in the background.
Okay, okay. I can carry on if you are too busy and unless
If
you would
there
like.
is anything, I'll come and add.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So what is important is that you don't put amino acid on these coils because it will create a problem, and when you want to contain the system, let's go back here. So don't put amino acid on these cores, because what would happen is that if you're in the system, you might be thrown away outside the spaceship, because these are the boundaries of your system. You don't want to cover these with amino acids at all. The only ones that you need to cover are, I'll put them in green, the solid cores here and here. Okay. Let me go back to here. So in order to create that condition of the hydrogen Gans state, what you can do is to coat the first coated in CO2, let's say, and then the outer coating always has to be CH3. One of the things that I was looking at is using other elements, such as to create the rotation and so forth. That's something that we have to confirm with Mr. Kish, that whether or not it's recommended to use other elements such as iron, aluminum, bismuth, or the copper itself to create the condition. From speaking with Armin, he was saying that when we use elements of the Earth, the spacecraft would be bound to the boundaries of Earth. But if you use just the CO2 and CH3 gases, you can actually travel outside the boundaries of Earth.
Yeah,
So
no. Let me add to this.
okay.
Sorry about that. We produce C and H in so many ways. If you look, you're already using a copper oxide. You can use the Gans of different materials on different cores for a time being, till we can control the plasmatic condition, the strength, that we can change each reactor to behave like something like metal or vitamin, that it can deliver that to the craft. You do not condition a craft by a matter state of the Gans. You allow that to be part of it. So if that kind of thing has to be in the coming time, when we can control the creation of the fields as we learn more, then you produce iron in a space, you produce gold in a space, you produce uranium in a space. But in so many ways, production or coating of material does not create a boundary condition or a matter condition to a state. Carry on.
Okay. Let's go here. There's other thing that came across, and this was about, let me go actually backwards. There was a hydrogen 21 centimeter line which was brought up a few days ago in the International Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And basically there is a wavelength of 21 centimeters and it comes to 1420 megahertz. And in the the reactors, the core reactors that was shown in Iran, and that it was used for flight system. The core, the sphere, the diameter of the sphere was 21 centimeters, and basically I had an idea that when you cut these coils, if you get them in the proportions of the 21 centimeter, it could be multiplications or divisions of that, depending on how long you want to cut the coils. It would create the very good condition for the field effect. And a little bit going back into the history of this length, when we look at the Egyptians, they used something called the sacred cubit length. Let me go to, so basically, all their structures that they use to create these massive structures, such as Giza, and their architectures in Egypt were based on the sacred cubit. So this is about 20.6 inches or 522 millimeters, which is about 52.3 centimeters. And it was in the royal Egyptian king chamber and so forth. And they had these rods that are in museums that was cut in a specific length, and they use it as their base for measurements. So one of the interesting things is that when you cut any, let's say, a wire or have an object at this length, it will resonate at a frequency of 144,000 hertz, according to Hans Becker, and it becomes an antenna for the cosmic frequencies, and it has healing properties. And basically, it will bring light to this dimension, the light, the cosmic lights to this dimension. If you look at the structure of, let's say, pyramid in Egypt, this length is 440 sacred cubit. So if you multiply that by 20.6 inches, basically you get the length here. So they were very picky about using these lengths. And interestingly, the structure of the pyramids has lasted for thousands and 10,000s of years over the history of mankind. So they are very stable. And in the center, as a result of the structure of the pyramid itself, you get a specific frequency where the mummifications naturally happens and things don't get decayed in the middle. So that can be applied in space as well. Those frequencies of how we can use, how we can apply these frequencies in space. Interestingly, when their length is 20.6 inches, which is about 52.324, and if you divide it by 2.5 as a division, you will get 20.9296, which is approximately 21 centimeters, which is similar to the hydrogen. Let me go back here. The hydrogen 21 centimeter line, basically. Let me clear the drawings here. One of the other things I would like to share is the production of hydrogen, basically hydrogen Gans. And let me bring this here.
Carry on with this work while you're sorting. You need one coil on each base, yeah, and then we come back to you.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Yes.
Ali John, can you come in?
Sure.
Teach us more, please.
So one of the questions I have is, why is that basically we have these coils that we can make possibly bigger. One I'll annotate here. And I know we are using the coils at Renin. So you mentioned previous time that if you make a bigger of these and use them in the field, that would give us the structure. And right now, I think they're using the stacker type of a formation that we had. Would you be able to comment as
These were originally built for tester structure, and then now we have the coil windings that the cores have already moved bigger. They already have become bigger size because the volume of the plasma concentration has to be increased. So we already achieved a bigger size, but these are test ones which we built months ago, and as you see now they're hanging in a bigger size, different shape, and this is just a technology development. This was to show what we can do, how we can connect things before we lift it. As I said, the full working operation of this, considering all aspects of connection between the coils, has been done by Marco. We saw the drawing last Tuesday with Arman Puta.
yes.
So you've seen the size of the core are very small on the boundary. They are plasmatic cores than being a Gans, what they call Gans cores, than being a matter-controlled state plasma as you have it here. Do you have that picture that we can show the difference?
The one that Marco showed last time?
Yeah, the one Arman showed was the Marco.
Armin. Armin, are you online? Can you share your picture?
Yes, give me 2-3 minutes. I will.
Okay. Okay, we'll give you 2 or 3 minutes. And so yeah, I mean, going into space requires a lot of different. We got to bring all the knowledge together because we're looking at.
Let me tell you one thing, Ali. You,
Yes.
your team, and Brennan team have got till we get to China. Because when we get to China, we deliver this technology to Chinese government in a very beautiful way. So you have all the time in the world. Get together, do it, and every possible thing is on the table for it to move. You don't need much alteration at this stage till we start. Now we see the field changes. Hopefully, if we can replicate the system we just seen in Japan back into the organization of the structure here, then we can actually don't rely on people's feeling. Then we measure reality of the field with the Ganses.
Correct.
That them hopefully will give us a lot of opportunities. With running in the background, hopefully they can copy it as much as possible very rapidly, that we can duplicate it with the help of the gentleman in Japan, and we see where we're going to go.
Vernie showed us previous time that he's working on creating these CO2 and CH3 Ganses, the pure version of it, where the metals don't touch the liquid.
Yeah, this is what I thought in the teachings last week, where you can use plastic or whatever, but put your metals outside, because now you're not dealing with a matter state, you're dealing with a, what do you call it, the field of the matter. So it's a one way to do it. Carry on.
Yeah, and basically he had two, basically kind of a plastic bags. One of them was a nano-coated copper coil here. And let's see, and the other one was either zinc or iron. And let me get a different color. There's another one, and they're both in a plastic bag. And basically, he was adjusting the distance to get the CO2 or CH3 GANs created. And we also put some voltage here where we put some positive here and on the nano-coated negative to see if that would increase the amount of GANs production. He had basically there were two experiments going, one with the sea salt, and then we advised to use pure salt because that would give us a more pure CO2, because when you have sea salt there's all these extra elements in the GANs production that we don't want to have. So we advised him to use pure salt without any additives or anything like that. I don't know how, within the last day or so, how is the production of the pure GANs coming? Vernie, are you online?
Yes. Unfortunately, we don't see any GANs using those plastic in between the electrodes.
I mean, our goal is to help them to create these GANs because we gotta coat these with CO2 first, and then coat them with CH3 as an outer layer. And I was wondering, Mr. Kish, what do you recommend for us to increase the production of this GANs, or is it just a matter of time to wait for it to happen?
The only thing is you got to do is look for a distance between the plates, because when you do these kind of connections, you have to change the distance till you come across the right distance. When you put that plastic, it reduces the field. Here, if I can use my pen.
Go ahead.
Here, you see here, this plastic plays a game, a direct game in the field reduction. So all you need to do is to bring. Secondly, you don't need to connect to positive or negative. This should not be done. You should connect this to a motor or an electrode. The power supply should not be connected to, and you bring this as close as possible. Just keep one steady and move the other one till you start seeing the connection, the production.
Is there any benefits to putting liquid between the inner coil and the plastic?
No. One of the best thing is to use glass. In these conditions, use glass containers. And what we see is putting a thing, even if you use a glass tube, you put this in, you get a better results on the plastic. So if you put them in the glass tube and bring them forward till you start seeing the production, you've got to find a distance for it.
Okay.
Because in the big plates, wires are different. With the big plates which we use, it doesn't take that long to do it. You just got to find it where it is and it works. If you attach it to a plastic container, you move it till it comes somewhere with your water inside, both plates on either side. With the coils, you change the conditions all the time.
Okay. So, Vernie, it would be better to use plates than the coils, I think. And if you can kind of find a container, plastic container for these plates to put it in between, you can bring them closer till you find that number that it can produce.
Yeah, it all depends. You can do all sorts of things. You can play with these things quite a lot. We saw it yesterday in the teachings of the 3-year course, that how it was shown adding or putting a plate in or a nail in to produce the blood. But you have to understand where you are, how you do it, and then it's just some experiment. Once you touch it, then you know where it is. You can carry on with it.
Okay. And as I was saying, pure salt is much better than sea salt because of the extra things that we don't know what they are in the sea salt.
Again, we don't have a pure salt. This is the problem.
Yeah, the pure.
All the salts have something in it, or they're taking everything out of it.
Right.
But we advise not to shoot. Using a sea salt is as good as using a seawater. A lot of people go and get seawater to produce Gans with it. This is the same thing. Try to eliminate as much as possible different materials in your system, that we head in the right direction. We all produce the CO2, we all know it does. And Chinese research has shown scientifically measured that this is CO2. So it's not difficult to make it, but trying to make it the purest version possible.
Okay. Interestingly, when you look at the periodic tables, it shouldn't be flat. We are looking at standing waves of energy. So the ideal looking at any elements is through a spiral form. So when you look at like table of elements, you should look at it at a spiral form, which is like hydrogen. It becomes helium, lithium, and it goes to the heavier elements. And if you look at it that way, we could easily understand how we can use these materials to increase or make a flow through the plasmatic, through the Gans process. And these are...
Jumping to tell you something which is very... This is another way of showing the periodic table. This is exactly where the knowledge is wrong. This is exactly where you are put in the wrong track of mind, and then you see it because you visually seen it. If you work on the principle of the plasma, you put the hydrogen here. This is where it's one of these things is was when I looked at when I was a student, and to me it did not make sense. And I know you're trying to teach us, so I appreciate that.
Yep.
But if you understand the structure of the plasma, the strongest sits in the center. Where here it gives you, even you say energy diagram you want to show, this should be hydrogen. And then you go down. Because that's how plasma gets stronger and stronger. The heavier it gets, the more it goes. The visualization causes a lot of problems. Some of these periodic tables, the way it's been established with different properties, I've seen these things as a student, and I never agree with it, because now when you put it in the plasma, I use the same kind of drawing in my teachings. You've all been there, some of you have seen it. We always go that the plasma increases in mass or whatever. It depends on if you go clock or anti-clock, it doesn't matter. Where the weakest... You're wiping me out.
Let me see if I can.
I'm getting...
Can you try now?
Wiping me out. Yeah, I'm there now.
Okay.
You see, the hydrogen sits here. Helium is there because it gets heavier from atomic mass plasmatic. I'm gone again. So, what are you doing in the background?
We cannot see.
Yeah, we cannot see your drawings, Mr. Kish. Let's.
Pardon?
We cannot see your drawing, Mr. Kish.
Can you see this blue?
No. Let me stop share and reshare again, and
Okay,
see if
stop
that
share.
would give then annotate.
Okay,
And
I
let's
can
see.
annotate, okay.
And see if you can draw something.
Can I annotate now? Can you see my blue line?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go back in what I did. I'm gonna erase this one off, that it goes. The problem with this picture gives you a totally wrong image in the plasma. Okay, the matter you want to say what the condition, the element increases. Where if you work in a plasma condition, yeah, you go this way. As you go out, the lighter it gets. We start with a very powerful plasma in center. The heaviest, the strongest, that's where the center sits. That's what you call the principle. And then as it interacts and reduces, it goes out and makes weaker. So when you come here, in fact, let's say your hydrogen is here because it's the weaker, less of the two. Before you go into the matter state of other things, or submatter, this is your helium. This is, and it goes on. Then You understand, when you translate, some of you have to redraw these things into plasmatic strength. And children, when you look at it, once you say this, oh, hydrogen sits in the middle, but in fact, hydrogen is the weakest, it should sit outside. And this we have to organize. Needs to be done. Then you see it, these things. I always objected to these things as a student. And I still see I have the same temperamental condition about it, that this is where we go wrong a lot. We emphasize on the hydrogen, which is the weakest, that it has a lot of power, but the strongest, you can get an energy from it, but it's the weakest. And then if you understand how the gravitational magnetic field changes, you can easily create elements out of hydrogen. Here you go fusion, here you go division of fields according to the plasma. It's a huge difference. The way we see the structure here, we think, okay, we have to add what do you call it, hydrogen to hydrogen, and we get helium. But in fact, the fusion never happens in the space. This is you have, according to the strength, you go down. And then you see there is no need fusion. This is all the things which has come wrong in the split of the science over centuries or decades. Carry on. So when you look at this, understand how you can interpret the other end of the knowledge too.
Yes, we had to correct a lot of knowledges that are...
It's not correcting, it's just adding to the knowledge,
Adding.
but now from the plasma point of view, not from chemistry point of view.
Correct.
Okay, carry on.
Okay. And let's go next. Basically, it's the bismuth is a diamagnetic element, and it's 86% dense as lead, and it's considered as the highest atomic mass that is really stable. It's discovered to be weakly radioactive though, and as the toxicity of lead has become more apparent, there has been more increase in the past decade or so for bismuth for its replacement. It also can create bismuth oxide and hydrogen. If it is when it's red hot, it reacts with water. There's some other information that basically when it's twice as abundant as gold, and when you do the refining of lead, actually bismuth comes out as a refinement of lead. There are some interesting diamagnetic properties where it's been shown that if you let's say have a neodymium magnet on here, and there's two, let's say, bismuth metals in the middle, you can actually suspend a magnet, and it will stay and it will rotate if you make it turn, and it will stay there, and it's pretty interesting, like it's diamagnetic properties. Interestingly, water has that property too, so it's actually when you water has the same diamagnetic properties to some extent.
Can I add to your knowledge?
Please.
How can I put it that you can understand it? You're showing something which has parallels in the universe. And by those who have gained the knowledge, they use it. In space, we have plasmatic field environments where they behave like this material. And the races who have developed the knowledge to a certain limit, they use this to suspend themselves anywhere or move to anywhere in the universe, without burning any fuel or without doing anything or using any magnetic field. They use the property of their structure and using the field suspended at a very high level of the universe to move very freely from one place to another instantaneously. We have in the space environments, it's literally all over the space, depends which one you want to tune yourself into, that you can create motion and suspense and move from one to another. You can use these things like a bullet to fly in through. So when in the future we go to the teaching, this kind of properties of suspending material in this shape, you have the same thing in the space magnetic fields. There are at the moment something like 6 of them around our solar system. You see their properties in the space. It's something you can feel, you know it, you know it's there. In some times we have up to 6 around our solar system, not on Earth. It's beyond it's in the plasma of the solar system, beyond the plasma of the solar system. And in so many ways, these are fingerprints of the control of the plasmas. In a way, if you look at it, our solar system is suspended in it. These are what you most probably call it, like the magnetic satellites. And we have Galaxio satellite. We have the same thing. This is how things more or less get suspended in their environment. And when you see these, remember what I told you. In the coming time, I spoke with the tunnels traveling and being in one direction. These things give you these tunnels after transportation. So what you're explaining has a replication in the bigger structure in the, what do you call it, in the space technology as you go in. That metal hanging in there is your craft.
Mm-hmm.
Carry on.
Thank you. And basically, there was I think many some years ago, around 1960s or so, or earlier than that, there was a crash, a physical crash. They took some of the metals out and they found magnesium zinc alloy with pure bismuth layers in the structure. And so they had 97% magnesium, 3% zinc, and 10 layers of bismuth. It was about 4 microns, and in a wavy pattern, interestingly. And they did spectroscopy to find, that element. And interestingly, when positive electrons were bombarding these bismuth, the bismuth the mass was reducing to 0, and it would actually rise into the air. So they did some experiments that it could have, when it's bombarded with certain positive electrons, it will rise in the air. There's another element just below bismuth, which is really hard to get on this planet, so it has to be artificially manufactured, basically. It's 115, so it's possibly that element that Mr. Kish was saying in outer regions of this solar system or our galaxy, some areas that they do have this element, but I mean, it's possible to generate it. There are ways to, let's say, use americium, which is 243, and have calcium, and as a result you can create the element 115, but it's not the perfect version because it lacks, I don't want to go too much details, but it lacks some neutrons and some to create that magic number that it has the full capacity of the element 115. There were some research done by that scientist. His name is Bob Lazar, and he was working at one of the basically secret places that they work to reverse engineer the crafts that have been crashed and so forth. And interestingly, the star formation, he was actually similar to our design. They were talking about star formation, where he was saying that when you focus the gravitational magnetic field to a point in space, and you match the gravitational magnetic field of that location, you will get pulled into that area of space without using any fuel or propulsion or anything else. So it's like you tap into a location far, and using these three fields, and you just get pulled into it, or it get pulled into you, like a rubber. So that's where NASA and so forth, they're trying to use propulsion, which is a completely different way of traveling, rather than using the gravity and the natural, like magnets, as Mr. Kish was showing when you put magnets around each other, they go into their responsive positions, and they get attracted or repelled depending on where you put them. Let's go forward. And you can possibly use bend space and time to travel into space. You can ride a wave like a cork in the ocean to travel to these to get to your destination or where you want to go, and it would be more or less instantaneous. You can get there. Definitely, there's a lot. You can go beyond the speed of light, because through the plasma and gravitational field, there are much stronger fields that can put you in that position in space. Well, we don't want to go through antimatter, because there's some Mr. Kish was saying that they don't exist in that level, but they were creating a condition where, as a result of interaction of that element, it would create energy. And these are some of the structures that they draw out of that secret base. So when you look at this, they had these reactors, the 3 reactors on the bottom, and you got the top one, and they used basically star formation to travel across. And there are some other drawings of the crafts and how they were designing it, and where the elements, which was element 115, was positioned at this top layer for the propulsion to happen. It's like a triangular kind of a shape, and there was a reactor, and he was reporting that when they were, let's say, throw a ping pong ball here, before even it hit the casing of the unit, it would bounce back. So there was a field on the reactor.
Can we not to go there, because I don't ever support these things. So
okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
The structure which we seen, I mean, you just explained the material, and you said they can use another material with which can produce the 115. Do you want to mention the 2 elements?
Yeah, it was bismuth, and let me go back here.
Okay, go back. No, the next, the other page, where you had the 115.
Yes.
Okay, go further down. Go further down.
Yes, this one.
Yeah, it was this one. Okay. Would you like to tell us what you have there? Where is this?
Okay.
Do you know what is, you say you can produce, you can use 2 materials, AM243.
Americium-243 nucleus with calcium.
Somebody can go on the internet and tell us where this material is used. It's an alpha radiation source. Rick, can you take this out for us on Wikipedia?
Yes, I'm just getting into that.
Far the better.
I'm going to give you a very shocking news so you will understand very soon why we're going this way. Smoke detectors.
I was just about to mention that, yes. Okay.
Americium-243 is used in the smoke detectors, and we have a full flight system in Belgium. The Belgian government confiscated over 400 of these units because we had a flight system. Now you understand why I went to it. Americium in a specific condition, used with calcium in a specific direction, gives you a space magnetic field condition. If you go on the documents we released on the Belgian government, they came and they took. These are used, and if you use a slight Gans of calcium with it, you achieve unconditional lift. We use americium in the Iranian nuclear reactors in Tehran. The space technology of Iran beyond the understanding of human race. So now you understand how it operates. In Europe, we cannot touch it. In London is the only place, and we kept all our shipping documents that we are in order. I do not touch till it's brought up. And now you understand how far advanced we are. They confiscated our resources some 5 years ago. We used americium, and that's why when we said we achieved lift in Tehran, now you understand. Because when you use it with a Gans of calcium, you can understand how it will operate. And then you find out you need 21 centimeter containers to achieve lift on a single core condition. So when, as I always said, when you come into it, you don't understand it, but we know what we're talking about. You can go to the certification of the Belgian government. What they destroyed and we had to pay for it is Americium-95. And it's used in the smoke detectors. That's why we use the smoke detectors to purchase these units, because it's the easy way to produce a space magnetic field, what we call levitation. What you call magnetic gravitational positioning when you use it in different directions. You cannot use this unless you know. It's taken years of research to develop this material. Secondly, it has a lot of radiation, but what happens if you use the calcium in a specific way in conjunction with salt, there is no radiation, but it's a full effect. It's one of the salts in the nature you can use for this. So as I said, we are going into the full development technology, and now you understand why we use americium for years in the space for development of the space lift and motion. It's very simple, it's effective. It contains and creates space level, deep space cosmic radiation of creating lift. And that's why they say it will be, what do you call it, this material can be used in the space. Americium-95 in conjunction with calcium, in conjunction with one natural salt, creates a space gravitational magnetic field, which what you saw and I said, it just creates a suspension. Just with this piece, if you understood, I brought you forward about 2000 years in the space development. So when you have, and I just explained to you, there are spaces in the universe where you can get suspended and be pulled in and out of, you need this material. And as I said, just before he comes on with this a few minutes ago, if you go and listen, now that we work with the governments, we have access to these freely. We don't need to be accused of everything because of the ignorance of the King of Belgium and his entourage. We bring this nation to the court of justice for what they've done to the scientists and the others. Now you understand how advanced Iran's space technology is, because I brought the Americium in Tehran when I explained to them what it is, and I developed it, and that's how we achieved it. We decide. And it has a very direct connection with the human body, with the emotion. It's for you to find out. When you place in a specific condition, in a specific way, the system itself creates its own lift, because it doesn't tune to your environment, it tunes to the space. Now the two, what you saw there, 2 discs with the metal hanging in, you become a copy of the others. You decide what the strength you want to increase or reduce. And it can be done by disbursement. So now you understand, and it's a warning to the national government, that we are approaching a full space, deep space technology, as scientists like Ali open the knowledge. So when you use these, it's only this which creates near enough to what you need, he said, but where is the shortage of electrons, what he talks about, is replaced by the salt which we add to it. Stays by reduction in the field, what are called the space salt. You decide if you're going faster, you're going smaller, slower. And again, I thank the Office of the Iranian Presidency when I was in Iran, allowing such a thing to happen so rapidly. And Iran's space technology is beyond a lot of imagination of a lot of people, but they still haven't understood why they use it and the way they use it. This is where the new space technology will bring in. There is a lot more to teach. You use the natural elements, but in the state of the plasma without actually changing the characteristic of the element. If you go on a bandwidth of alpha radiation, which this material creates, that radiation, it becomes your link, is not for ionization. In a vacuum condition, just go and read, in a vacuum condition, alpha radiation can travel up to 21 centimeter, which allows you the link. But if you go a step further in the space knowledge, you can link that radiation into universal magnetic field. So, as I said, today is a, what do you call it, the blueprint for a space. So we teach you again, add to the knowledge. It is how the ignorance of the man creates problem for the man. This technology in full package will deliver to the Chinese government in coming weeks. Because then we use it for the stability of the space and the space technology for deep space. The same is open to the other governments who accept to go in the path of peace. And you see it. We said for a long time what was confiscated, but they're so ignorant, they all concern was huge. The allegation of the Belgium nuclear, I carry 400 and odd sources of alpha radiation americium. And they didn't take it, they just didn't want us to show the lift in the car on 26th of November 2012. That's why they took, but they didn't know why they didn't take it. They locked it up and left it in my lab. Now you understand where we are heading for. We will show a full lift and you will not even understand how the lift is done. I'm walking you in that direction. Look at the composition of the materials you're using. Add up. You come very soon to the property of this material. You cannot create the material. What you can create is gravitational magnetic field effect. And if you create this gravitational magnetic field effect, you just missed one word which Ali said. This shows the property of the water too. Water has the same property. In so many of the teachings I've done, in so many of the lectures, we always said oxygen in the environment of the liquid of the earth behaves as a magnetic field. It does, because you have to look at the gravitational magnetic structure of it. Actually, what it does, why you can suspend everything in the liquid or put things in liquid of water, is because of this property of the oxygen. Oxygen creates suspension, and that's why it's liquid state. In conjunction with hydrogen, it needs that is H2O. Itself creates very much like we talk about a real. Can I share a screen? I teach you, you understand. Can you give me the platform? If you want to stop sharing, please, Ali.
Rick, can you stop sharing, please?
Yeah, okay. You got to understand this, that you have hydrogen, 2 hydrogen, and you have an oxygen. Then if you have another molecule of hydrogen in a matter state, you see what it does. Why you suspend everything, why liquid, why water is the most common liquid material, and how I always said oxygen behaves. These are your oxygen, these are your hydrogen. What happens is that this locks with this. You remember nano positioning? But look what happens here too. And they all pass somewhere in here. But they allow the suspension in 2 ways. If I'm going to be more precise, this is what you're going to get. And there's the rubber. Where's my rubber? Where can I see my rubber? There it is. So if you look at it, we take this one off, you will see better what it goes. I have left a legacy of knowledge for the Iranian government and Iranian nation. If they understood, understand what they had in their hand. This is why, if you look at it here, I'll go back as a pen. Here is a nano-structure behavior which allows the water to keep its distance and anything can fit into it. That's why water is part of the composite structure of the human body, because it allows other elements to suspend in this gap. Water in the body of the man is not there to be that you need it to observe it. The water in the body of a man is to create this nano structure, because don't forget, I keep on telling you, and I've taught from the beginning, that the body of the man is in a vacuum condition. In a vacuum condition, when you bring liquid like water, it creates the nanostructure, plasmatic Gans structure, the gap which the other elements can place and position and release their energy or absorb energy in a gravitational magnetic field strength. In so many ways, if you can go in that direction, you can create reactors out of the water. In a way, it go back to the beginning of just somebody said we use CH3. The hydrogen, when it goes into the center, adds to the mass, but it still stays in the Gans state of plasma. And you can see how it's created. This material, at this moment, there is another material when you go above by another factor of 152, 153, that gives you universal plasmatic condition. What it means, if you understand it, you can travel from universe to universe. Man is beyond your imagination, but in time you understand the teaching. Now you've seen the condition of the plasmatic condition of water, why it is. The water shows the same behavior. Now the more or less the 115, and then you go up by 101.53 up in that level, because at the moment, being in the structure of the solar system, you can't reach that point. When you go into the galaxy and beyond galaxies in the open spans of the universe, then that's the element you need to create to be able to be suspended across, to travel from universe to universe. It's the structure which you have to understand as a plasmatic condition, not as a matter condition. And you keep on falling back, and I keep on pushing you back on the other direction. One of the easiest way to make a system for even measuring magnetic gravitational on Earth is to use water. Gans of water. But when you say they have found and there is a property, materials like this, is because this material in a given condition behaves and matches into universal magnet. On the Earth magnetic field, you have iron, which behaves that it can suspend of self or itself inside it. And if you look, when you have a hemoglobin, iron, it's a one suspender of the Earth in one suspender of the liquid environment, which leads to the creation of the red color of hemoglobin. Because you have both H and O in your amino acid in the Gans state. The friction of the gravitational magnetic field leaves the residual color of red, because in that position the structure behaves in a Gans state. Because now you have brought in another element which now it itself adds plus. Just add what's hemoglobin. And then add the power of iron. Not atomic. Go back into what I taught you by a factor of the plasmatic strength, magnetic gravitation. You'll find out it's about 1.5. Sometimes 1.6. And then you have the same factor in respect to the space travel with this element and 1.5. 1.52 is just about right figure in that. Depends what material, in what condition, where you bring it in. Then you can travel into dimensions of the universal, not the space. But if you can use, when you see the materials you don't understand is used in certain ways, is because it shows the advancement of the knowledge of the people who've used it. It means these are universal travelers, not galaxial travelers. The ones who use this material are the people who have learned how to travel across this universe, because it's part of the gravitational magnetic field of the universal level. So you're just like a magnet in between. You've seen how we show the little magnets we put and the other ones hang on and hold on and find their gap. You become one of those, but you have to understand it. So if you bring with the amount for what it is, can you go back on this? I stopped sharing. Go back on atomic structure, which you were showing the atomic mass and atomic weight, please, Rick. Are you there? Hello.
On the Americum?
Yeah, Americium. If you look 24.241.5, go back and go down, multiply this by 1.52. No, go back, it's okay. If you multiply 2.41 by something roughly, let's do it by calculator. Calculator, you have 2.241 multiplied by 1.52, 366.32. This is the element you have to look for to be able, roughly about 370, 350, to be able to reach the, what I call the universal magnetic field. And then you can travel very, very easy. Okay, there's possible parent nuclei, beta from blah blah blah, and then 241 cesium alpha from 245. So when you look, can you go up to the top of it, please? If you go up, you see this element has a huge application in the space technology. But you have to know what you add to it, how you bring it in, how you associate with it. It gives you a suspension with, what do you call it, with the space. And for not losing the elements the way you do, you have to find what we call a space salt. And it's very easy, there is plenty of that on Earth to hold, and then you change the space salt in conjunction with calcium. And then there is another way to do it, which you can support it much easier. Those are the ones who are nuclear physicists, understand this in the background. If you bring 241, can you go in the periodic table, please?
I can share the periodic table if you want, or
Sure, go ahead.
Just remember you had the 95, huh? And 93.
okay, I got this, and
Go back to what you just were showing us, what you need to add. You see this, no, go back to the page just
okay.
now. Go back one page, go back. You see the structure, what you have there. This structure needs a salt. If you add a salt to this, you find, instead of using, you see they use calcium, yeah? If you add potassium and the salt, you get exactly what you need, and you have no isotopes. You directly get the material you need. What is calcium on your table?
calcium is, let me check here.
It's there, it's in front.
No, not that one.
In front front of you. Okay.
Just
Go,
there.
go, go. Doesn't matter. Go on the steps. Okay. Now you got there. Where's your periodic table?
Right here.
Okay. Okay. What is calcium? You're opening it. What happened? Okay. What is calcium?
40.078.
40.
Point 078.
What is the potassium?
Potassium is
Next to it.
next to it.
19.
K. The
Okay,
K.
next to it. Potassium is next to it. Is 19. I don't have my eyes, otherwise.
39.095.
39, 0.5. But
095.
19. Yes, it's 19.
Yeah.
What was americium?
Americium. Let's go back here.
Is there.
Americium 95 is 2430.051.
Yes. Okay. Now you're looking for 115. Am I correct?
Correct.
What is 115? You just came up with it. Yes, 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 yes. Now you add 95. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus potassium. $114. Yeah.
Yep.
Then you add the salt to it.
Okay. So
Don't forget, potassium 40 is radioactive. Potassium 40 is radioactive. In some cases, releases alpha radiation.
Mhm.
That's why it's part of your body. It does that. And what you're going to get is, if you know what to do with it, in presence of a specific salt, you will get stable, which is 115, near enough to it, as what you're looking for a space magnetic field resonance, or what you call magnetic field matching. And then you fly in the space without any fuel. And you just gotta find, it's just, you know, when you're a monkey, you jump from one rope to another. These are the ropes in the space. You've got to switch from one to another, and you change your direction where you want to go at the speed. Time becomes zero time. But at the moment, there is not enough knowledge to create this condition for people to do. But we've been using it. I've been using this as a nuclear physicist for a long, long time. You don't need to bombard nothing. You just create an environment that it opens up. And then you reach. The same, if you go back to the other page which you were explaining.
Let me go back here. Which one? The
One before, go one up there. Diamagnetic.
oh, diamagnetism. Okay, this one.
Yes.
Okay.
Now you used there 85. Yeah.
Bismuth. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you find the next step up, you can fly. Then you link into the universal, what do you call it? Inside the internal universal gravitational magnetic. I tell you something, you maybe add to the knowledge in a different way. You're looking for 56 multiplied by 2. but you have 58 and 57 too, if you understand.
Okay.
That's a backdoor entry in a way. If you produce the Gans of iron and isotopes of iron, you can do the same. In so many ways, you have to bring a combination of it in, and then you understand. The reason they need bombarding and it's not stable is because they haven't created environment for it to behave. We are looking for the behavior, we are not looking for the element. We are looking for Gans as a plasmatic behavior. And as I said, now maybe we have enlightened those who didn't know why we are using this material as a radiation source. That was in a way to create what we wanted, and that's what I said to you. It's got in a vacuum condition, it has a reach of 21 centimeter half-length distance of ionization. We use it because that was the only way people could understand. And if you go into teachings from long, even recently, I explained to you, I add potassium to the NaOH, and nobody understood why. Because when you nano-coat these systems with a potassium mixture, and then you put americium inside it, in the environment, you reach universal lift. That's how we achieve lift so easy.
Because which specific potassium? Potassium 40 is.
A ratio, small ratio of any potassium is potassium 40.
Okay.
The thing is, we are not magicians, but what we use things the way we understand. But the common knowledge, scientific knowledge, is not level to understand it. Go back on your teaching. I continuously explain. Even we went to use, we bought a specific paint from Belgium. I took with me to Iran, which has metal component they use in the school. Is banned now, you can't use it. It's used in the schools, or used to use in bedrooms for children to stick magnets on the paint. If you look, or people have been around in Kashmir, they've seen me, I wash it off some of the system, we still carry the paint. Because these paints carry and bring the property. You lot look for material, I look for the property of the field effect. And that's why I said to you, 56, 57, 58 is a composite materials they use in paint, some of it is left in there. And if you can use it with Americium, you'll find you will get more or less what you're looking for. And I use it heavily. Some of you who've seen some of the space reactors, especially the ones we cleaned up, the blue one which I gave to one of the knowledge seekers, it had a grayish material substance on it. And in that process, you can produce a conditions that the percentage of the using americium itself will create what I call within the galaxy universal magnetic field. You suspend it, and then you decide how I met. But people were looking for, I use as a radiation source. This is what you understand. This is what it is. It's not a magic show, but that's the intelligence. So that's how you understand. And when we said we were going to show the flight on the 26th of November in Eindhoven, the Americium was the creator of the magnetic gravitational field of the universe that it would have flown wherever I wanted it. Now you see it. Try to see if you can get it and you can do the composition of it. You'll understand how easily you see it. Shame on the nation of Belgium. Shame. Disgrace to the nation and the blood of it. We would have been in a space long time ago with not many people killed for the money, in the borders of the Libya, Syria, and the rest. Now I showed you this, I'll produce kilos of gold. You know how to do it. Let's break the banks. Bring up the atomic structure of the gold.
It's
Not very far. No, you're there. Stay there.
no. Okay.
Stay
Sure.
there where you are.
Just minimize
there,
it.
it's just next to you.
Yeah, it's right here.
It's right there. Open up. 79. No, go up. No.
No, sorry. Yeah, okay, got it. 79.
Go up. So nice. Am I correct?
Yes.
And now, if you understand this, at 196, and look at how easily you can produce gold. If you take americium, look at the difference. 16. You need 2 molecules of water. Gold is the rain within the water. If you know how to create a gas of water, and you know how to use certain materials within the structure, you can change anything to gold. You can even change any material which is much freely available to reach the atomic structure of gold. That's why I told you many times we produce gold in Iran in the reactors with fresh air. Because inside these reactors were americium. And what did I tell you? We just connected so many times, people have been around me. We just added air into the reactor. Air carries water, hydrogen, carries moisture. We change the atomic radiation structure in so many ways where we leave a little bit of americium, and in the moisture, in the build-up itself, creates gold. Understand what we did with what do you call it, with Fukushima. If you are a master of the game with radiation, understand the structure as a plasma, you can produce any material in the space as you need. We took mercury. If you add mercury in the presence of gas of CO2, in the presence of what do you call Li, tritium, you can't stop producing gold. It rains from the tank. Japanese don't know what to do with the gold they're collecting. And that's why they're pushing and pushing more with the radioactive materials and more with producing more, opening nuclear power stations. They found the resources to gold. The more lithium they can collect, the more, sorry, tritium they can collect, the more gold they can produce. They're not stupid. This is what Mr. Kant transferred to them as a knowledge and the materials. You throw in mercury and throw in Gans of CO2, with all the tritium in there, you collect gold at the bottom. All the nuclear power stations, anybody who's got a nuclear technology which can produce tritium, buy as much mercury as you can. You use mercury when you want to refine gold. Nobody understands why. Now you see. In the presence of mercury in its active condition, with the tritium which is in the water when you wash it, it releases the gold parameters. That's what it does. So that's all we've done. But now we release the Gans of CO2 and copper oxide to make it much easier. Now, I want to know how many more people TEPCO is going to sack. Look, understand the structure. And also say he's copied this book and that book. I wonder where they've written these in the books. Yeah, they've written in the books of, what do you call it, creation. So these people are gods. Don't forget, God used to have prostitutes, so they appear somewhere. These are the prostitutes of knowledge. So you have to understand the totality of the knowledge of the science of space, and you'll find out you can all fly in the right condition, right position. That's why I knew sooner or later we're going to teach more and more. As I said, we're going to the real space technology. By the time we reach China, we will bring enough on the table that the peace will be non-negotiable. It'll be forced. Understand and do not look at the matter state. Look at the magnetic gravitational state. Now we're taking into space technology, that the true space. Understand how you interact fields, not how you make things materialistic. Only look on what field, what's the balance of the fields. Even the child of age 5, 6, 10, if you understand it, can produce the materials which are fancy for everybody else. But look what condition it gives you. Look in what you can transfer across. In how you can produce conditions to give you the material you want, and then the material, when you achieved it in a plasmatic condition, you transfer it to whatever you need. What do you call alpha radiation? What do you call beta radiation? What do you call gamma radiation? What do you call xenon radiation, which the man doesn't have got a clue yet to understand it? If you bring these in and use them in an orderly manner, these are energy sources. You can use to develop something with them, you can use to reduce something with them. And man hasn't learned this yet. Create conditions in your reactors, in your cores, in the bindings. Create a condition. I showed it to you today. How you put CO2, copper oxide, CH3, as Ali said, amino acid, and look what gravitational and magnetic fields they create. Don't look what matter you put in. Matter is irrelevant, because once it's there, it's this plasmatic condition which operates, not this matter state. And man has this gift that he has a matter state that he can manipulate. It's not so easy outside. Also in space, you have to absorb energies, fields, gravitational, magnetic field. We are going into the real space travel to start learning the new environment of the operation. It has its own language, it has its own structure, it has its own ethos, it has its own operation. Understand, manipulate. Bring in and you add to. Try to really understand what you are doing. Try to expand on the knowledge what you have added. Any of you, if you understood, what is on the table, should easily be able to produce gold from iron. Any metal iron you see on the street, pick it up, follow the understanding, you walk away out of home with gold. Understand what you're doing. What is iron? Iron is about 56, 57, 56 on average, with 25, 26. Okay? So now you have iron as a composite. You got 4 of it. That gives you what? 104. You created the moisture of water, which is what? 10. You're in 114. If you add the right amount of alpha radiation and beta radiation, most of alpha radiation, you come to 115. But play it the other way around. You bring the 56, multiply it again by 4 elements of it. You're gonna get your 104. Are you gonna get more what you need? Are you gonna get less what you need? You got to learn how you add and how you subtract. You got to learn what extracts and what gives to. Because what you're looking for is the binder, not the constructor. You need a binding material. And a binding in the structure of any atomic structure, nuclear structure, is the proton. That's why elements change according to proton, how many protons they have. Neutrons is plenty, it's a spacer, filling up space and cavities. That's why neutron is there to divide. If something goes, it can add to. If electron falls out, the neutron is there to fill up. Go back and rewrite these tables according to gravitational magnetic fields, and you see how easily you can produce any material from combination of the others by field strength. Go into the total understanding, and then you understand how the best tool given to man is the radiation. Your body works on it without cobalt and cesium, whatever you want to call it, in your body, which you call it vitamin B12, you don't operate. So to make elements, your limbs, your parathyroid glands use the radiation to adjust for what you need. Why don't you do it? And then if you can know what are the magnetic field, gravitational field of anything, you can suspend yourself anywhere on that. But if you go to the next level of the magnetic field, galaxial strength and universal strength, then you suspend yourself in anything, you can travel one to another. But it takes you years, millions of years to understand what I just said in past 5 minutes. Process, as I taught you in the other teachings, in the private teachings, by the factor of the elements of the energy of the plasma. What does this mean? You see iron at 56, 55, average 15% less, which is roughly 50. So your gravitational magnetic field. When you get these systems built, this is gravitational magnetic field of iron. As a plasmatic, it's around about 50. So you go into the line of 50, see which one is 50. This is about the element I can expect to receive energy from. So I can produce that material. When I add to it or give it to it in different way out of the plasma. Fusion does not exist in the universe. The ones who speak about the fusing atoms and molecules together, they're as much closer to the science as the man who wants to jump off the earth and land up on the moon. It's the same theory. Doesn't work, it cannot be done. Start understanding this process. Most of you, especially if you live in United Kingdom, smoke detectors and Americium is very common. You can buy them. And then you can manipulate them in the right way, as I explained to you, and then you can create, in a way, galaxial universal system for transportation. Because now you create, always said, if you have iron, you can match to it. Then you can become magnetized. I said, always in all teachings says you can create the magnetic field of any element. 82, 83, 208, 210, but in reality, 115 is the more or less what you receive to travel within the galaxies and the universe. And if you want to travel between universes, multiplied by 1.5. You got to realize, if you do it multiplied by its double, it will not get you there. Because you have to understand the position of the fields within the universe. It doesn't go that way up. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. We have a couple of viewers. I'll promote the panelists here. Miguel looks like one. Is there someone there that would like to ask a question?
I've got a question, and that question is, why do I teach so little when there is so much to know? Because the man intelligence is not there yet.
We do have questions in the chat. Someone wants to know how to make a plasma battery, for example. That's going backwards a little bit.
Yeah, but going to the blueprints, I think we got to put making plasma batteries in the blueprint. We got to make division sections in the, what do you call it, in our website, where we can put blueprints in. And somehow people please go into these blueprints and translate it into different languages.
Yeah, we do have to get the latest blueprint teachings up on the website. Let's see what else we have here. Miguel, did you want to be promoted because you had a question, or is it Paul Yatut? Okay, there's a couple of other questions. Well, there's questions from Ilya, who asks, do we have to connect smaller coil to the battery capacitors and a larger coil to battery capacitors? And do we apply the same Gans coating to coils and everything? Do we leave the coils and everything loose, or do we attach everything to the boards?
You have to
there's more
attach,
questions.
depends what you want to do with it. You've seen what Marco just explained to us. We attach every core in every possible position. You just got to be able to use what you want to use it, what you want to achieve. You dismount, you disconnect some, and you connect one. Depends according to what you like. Then the model, I hope Marco or somebody Marco can share it in the innovation side. That he shows he's built a perfect system there. That how everything was possible to do. We could add gravitational, we could produce material anywhere. And I think what's his name? Okay. Anything else?
Hi, sir. This is first the initial. We don't have the wiring connection yet. We will review first the how to connect the coils.
Yeah, speak with Marco. Marco can give you a guideline for the actual connections, the way we set for production. So maybe he can give you an insight into it.
Okay, sir. I'll email.
That'll be perfect. Thank you very much indeed. Anything else?